Good morning. It's a regularly scheduled meeting, Board of Fire Commissioners. The date is Tuesday, August 4th, 2015. Time is like 9:09. Roll call.
Let the record reflect Commissioners Ibarra, Glazier, Fazio, and Hara are present. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Flag salute, moment of silence.
Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of past and present members of Los Angeles Fire Department who devote their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
So we start with Commissioner comments, item 1.
So I had a nice visit to Fire Station 1's 2 weeks back. Saw some of our paramedics at work and saw some great work on by them on a particular incident. So thank you to them for hosting me.
So item 2, report of the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. On July 22nd, I attended a meet and greet for our new council member, David Rue from CD4. July 23rd, we attended the retirement luncheon for Sel Martinez. July 24th, I attended with Chief Beck and the Mayor a Special Olympic torch run at City Hall. And later in the week, I had the honor with Chief Everett to award medals to our Special Olympic athletes at USC. July 30th, we attended the leadership graduation at Hodgkins Memorial Training Center. And July 31st, we spent most of the day with our new Deputy Mayor, Jeff Gorell. Gave him a flyover of the Santa Monica Mountains, looking at our brush concerns. Came back to MFC, and we had all the bureaus present a PowerPoint presentation on the current issues that we're facing in each of the bureaus. And then yesterday, I attended the press conference with Councilmember Englander, excuse me, to dedicate the West Hills Spot in memory of former LAFD Chief Pilot Glenn Smith. We also used the opportunity to announce the official start of brush season here and the arrival of our lease with Erickson, a 150-day contract for the Erickson Sky Crane. That concludes my report.
Thank you. So 2B is verbal report by the Department on significant incidents from July 22nd to August 4th.
Good morning, Madam Commissioner,
Morning.
Chief Terrazas, Commissioners, Madam City Attorney, and Ms. Gonzalez. My name is Phil Fleig. I'm the Deputy Chief in charge of Operations Central Bureau, and I got a couple things to share with you this morning from the last 2 weeks. First of all, we had one significant incident, structure fire that occurred on July 25th of last month. Approximately 12:32 in the morning, the Los Angeles Fire Department responded to a major emergency structure fire at 2529 North San Fernando Road in the Glassell Park area of the city. The LAFD quickly responded and found a one-story commercial building that manufactured movie sets. Was heavily involved in the fire with multiple exposures. Given the time of night, the fire had a good head start before the fire was actually reported, and fire had quickly developed and burned through the roof. Due to the high-risk firefighters, the incident commander quickly directed transition from offensive to a defensive attack. The aggressive coordinated actions by all the members on scene resulted in the extinguishment of the fire and prevented damage to further other adjoining buildings. Also, a water main broke and was shut down by LAFD, and DWP was quick to respond to shut that water main down. But there were no issues with the water at the fire whatsoever. After approximately 55 minutes, 127 firefighters on scene and knockdown was achieved. One firefighter was treated for a minor injury and was released to the scene, and the fire is currently under investigation. Are there any questions about that incident? I also want to talk to you about the World Games Special Olympics. So the LAFD had a significant role in assisting with LAPD as well as coordinating those events and the games that were happening for the last 2 weeks. And as you all knew, at the very beginning there were some difficulties with the transition of the athletes from the Loyola Marymount University to their places of where they're going to stay. and that presented kind of a problem with the heat that we had and with dehydration and food factors. So the LAFD, along with the Olympic organizer, jumped into action and helped logistical efforts, supplying water and food to the athletes to make sure they were comfortable until they got buses delivered to them and got them to their destinations. Also, through the games themselves, there was a coordinated effort with, as far as the medical aspects of the games, a collaborative effort with Kaiser Foundation Hospital and also with LAFD, helped out with the athletes if there's any injuries to the patrons or the athletes at the games. Throughout, the LAFD responded to 69 patient contacts and actually transported 27 people to local area hospitals during the events or the games. We also had many people that were involved. Battalion Chief Mike Greenup was actually the LAFD planning side for many months before and all through the games, which assisted a lot. Chief Armando Hogan, Battalion 4, was instrumental in helping out with the coordination of the logistical part that happened the first day of the games. We had a Captain Greg Porter that retired the day, I guess, after the games ended, but assisted the whole time around and was going strong the whole time up to his retirement doing that. And also a significant part by our EMS division assisting with the bike medics and the coordination of all the rescue ambulances and the emergency action plan or the incident action plan really all worked a lot of long hours. They had a command post that was actually only supposed to be stood up 8 hours a day that ended up being stood up 24 hours a day for the whole time of the Olympics to make sure that everything was taken care of from the athletes and the citizens. And also we were at all the venues at UCLA, the convention center, the golf courses, the equestrian center, Balboa Park through the whole week. So it was a very good effort by us, and it was a really good time had. And like Chief Ferraz mentioned as well, many LAFD members were able to present medals to the finalists and the placers of the events, which is kind of a nice thing. So that was the World Games. And lastly, I want to talk about our deployment we have right now with some of the wildfires going on. And as you all know, the Northern California is in a state of emergency right now with all the wildfires. There's 20 to 23 significant fires going on right now within the state, most of them in Northern California. 12 significant major fires, as we call them right now. And out those fires, we have 18 overhead people attached to those fires. And what an overhead person is people have been trained. These fires have to be managed by an overhead team because they're so large. And there are people that are in charge of specific functions like plans, logistics, I'm trying to say here, the operations, safety, public information, and so on and so forth. People that have been trained specifically to deliver these things, to manage them at that type of a level, a Type 1 incident. We have people in the LAFD that have been trained to deliver that type of service, and now they are called upon by the state of California, by the Forest Service to come out and assist them. And we loan these people out for a couple days or a couple weeks at a time to make sure that they can manage the incident well. And then in return, they bring back that wealth of knowledge that they learn from these incidents, as well as sharing some of the things for our department. So it's kind of like a good give and take. So that's happening right now in the state, and there's several fires that they're at. And finally, we have one strike team from LA City that's actually deployed to the Rocky Fire right now. And that Rocky Fire, I believe, is the biggest fire that we got going on, or the state has going on right now, that is significantly taking a run right now. So we have 5 of our engine companies with the strike team leader and a trainee up there right now. And they're probably going to be up there for 14 days and making their way back within the next couple days. And that's it. Are there any questions about those events at all?
I was just going to say, Chief, I should have said it in comments, just kudos to the department and Chief Greenup, who I know, for all the amazing work they did during the course of the Special Olympics to have that event here and not have any incident, and have all the transports and things is really kind of, an amazing task, an amazing feat. So thanks, Chief, for all the hard work. I know how much you put into that as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. 2C is verbal report by the medical director on July 22nd for the incidents from July 22nd to August 4th. You don't have one? Okay. And we don't have presentations today. So item 4 is the consent agenda items.
Move to adopt items 4A through E. Adopt the recommendations.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So 5A is the verbal report by the department on the status and disposition of LAFD matters referred to other departments, committees, etc.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners, Chief Julie, and Sandy. Chief Everett, Chief of Staff, report back on the council and committee work during that last period. There's no written report in your packet because council was in recess and we do not have anything further to report back. We do have some things going on in the future, so next meeting we'll be able to report back on some activities.
Oh, there wasn't something like last week?
No, we had nothing on the agenda that came through that I'm aware of.
Okay. I don't know. I'll talk to you about it later. 5B then? Oh, thanks.
Thanks.
5B's report by the department on the temporary service of retired fire inspectors.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
City Attorney, Chief Terrazas, Ms. Gonzalez, John Vidovich, Fire Marshal. I believe the next two items, B and C, belong to the Fire Prevention Bureau. The report in front of you was a request from the Commission for the department to look at the possibility of bringing back retired inspectors.
Mm-hmm.
We did do an outreach. We had initially only 2 of our members who expressed an interest. There was some discussion at that time in regards to potential fiscal impact for retired inspectors coming back, impacting their drop money and taxes. And with that not being totally vetted, they didn't want to face that risk. We chose not to reach back past the 3-year mark because we implemented a new fire code. We have a new fire prevention system, and we also have a very active inspector list. So we've made that decision, and with your support and the chief, he promoted 8 inspectors. Those inspectors now conducted their first week of training last week, and yesterday they began to do inspections for our Operation Catch-Up, focusing on the backlog inspections.
Chief, I had asked a question a couple meetings ago, and I think again at the last meeting. I know that in next year's budget we have the ability, I think, to add some more inspectors. Is that correct?
Well, we at a meeting a few meetings back, I made the request for, based on data, to add an additional 7 inspectors. That is in the process of, it was heard at Public Safety. It was approved at City Council last week and moved to Budget and Finance now as that process goes through.
Is there any benefit for the Commission if they were to agree to let Budget and Finance know that we would appreciate their cooperation in getting those additional inspectors sooner versus later, so you could, catch up with the backlog?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the last report on the agenda, we'll discuss the backlog, and I'll discuss my thoughts and really the realistic realization that until we have the appropriate staffing, we're going to continue to be at a deficit of completing our inspections in a timely manner.
Okay, thanks.
So you talk here about some possible negative financial impacts to those members. Do you have more details about that? And is there something that we can do to mitigate that, or?
I don't have the in-depth detail on what that potential impact could have been, but in regards to the outreach of us looking to bring back inspectors, specifically there was, and I don't know if it was the CAO or city attorney who raised the question of potential fiscal impact. But that was something that occurred several months before we actually looked at even bringing back inspectors. I think, Chief, it was in the area of extending the drop possibly. I'm really not sure on the nexus of the fiscal impact, if it was determined by the CAO or city attorney.
There was a multitude of issues about projected increase of work comp costs, tax implications. City attorney was involved with that discussion, pension department. And so we decided at that time to step back and focus on other areas to address our shortfalls.
So, Chief, the better opportunity perhaps for us would be to see if we could accelerate the hiring of next year's budgeted additional inspectors versus reaching back to ask retirees to, come back for for some sort of rate. Is that sort of the conclusion?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if we don't get the 7 inspectors until next fiscal year, it delays us. But if we could accelerate that, that would be great.
So I'm just sort of concerned about the fact that we have severe staffing problems in the field. We have staffing problems in Fire Prevention Bureau. So, to the extent that we're just moving people around from the field to fire prevention, we're not really helping ourselves out very much, because we're still going to be we're still going to be relying on overtime somewhere.
You raise a very good point, and what we've done. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
So my point is, I think we have to look at other sources of labor. Whether it's retired members, people outside the department, perhaps civilians. We just need to do something, creative. We can't, we can only hire so many people every year, and it's something's got to give here.
You raise a very good point. What we've been doing is timing our promotions approximately in alignment with the graduation of our recruits. I like to have our people in the stations in place at least one pay period ahead of the arrival of a new recruit. Right now, we're at capacity at the Fire Prevention Bureau at 130. Is that correct? So there are no vacancies. All the authorized positions are full. Not to say we have not started on rebuilding in terms of returning the inspector positions that we lost in previous budget cycles. So we've projected, because of drop is an excellent predictor of people retiring and what rank and when they're going to leave. We're going to be trending down through the end of the year. Right now we're about 340, and then in 2 weeks we'll be a little over 300, and then we have one more class before Christmas. We'll be around 270. So the good news is that we're trending down until next June and July, where we lose a little over 90 people. So we actually have a plan in progress that we're trying to come up with a way to insert one more class and to time it so that the class hits the field at about the same time in June that we're losing all those people. That's the direction we're going. Not to say that we're not looking for other alternatives, but we are making some progress in terms of the capability to produce the recruits and to develop a plan B.
So what other alternatives are we looking at?
Adding a 6th class off the current list, and to find someplace else to put them. The choke point was the number of vacant spots on fire apparatus. What we're looking at now is to, instead of starting on fire companies, start them on an 800, an EMT ambulance. There's more seats that we can fill there. So what we would do is pull off the existing list, identify those EMT ambulances. We'd give them a short training period and focus on the EMT part of the responsibility, put them out to the field, and then bring them back, because we have a window of opportunity at Drill Tower 40 to complete the rest of the training, and then we'll return them into the field to finish their probation.
I like that plan. That's a good plan. Chief, President Ibarra brings up the civilian opportunity within the Fire Prevention Bureau. Has there been any research or studies done on that? How long does it take to train a civilian, or is there a pool out there that can be leveraged, ready-made, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, we looked at our sworn plan check staff, and we converted 5 of those to a civilian model. The other potential area that, when the PA consulting report analyzed our CUPA section, there was some recommendations on the possibility of civilianizing some of those positions. However, at this time, we are a sworn model, and we're moving in that direction to complete the CUPA deficiencies with our sworn model. Again, evaluating that, and if that's the direction that the chief chooses for us to go, we can proceed. It would be creating a new class of what's called an environmental inspector within the city, so it would have to go through the process of the personnel department and so forth.
And I just don't know why we wouldn't be looking at some aspect of that. I mean, all we do here is lament the fact that we robbed Peter to pay Paul by taking folks out of the field and putting them in because we have a sworn model. We're forced to pull people out of the field, so we beat up our people in the field and then move them into positions that we have to fill because we have a sworn model. I certainly wouldn't sit here and suggest that we should completely upend the sworn model, but at this point, at this stage of the game, even if we're talking about 3 or 4 more people who could be, if there are 3 or 4 positions that could be done by civilian inspectors, and I know there are lots of inspection positions out there. Some of them make a lot of sense to be sworn, and some of them make a lot of less sense to be sworn. It just, it's 4 people. You're talking about 4 or 5 people, but those are 4 or 5 people who could be in the field.
I don't think anybody's talking about like getting rid of sworn personnel in Fire Prevention Bureau. Just bringing in key civilians to help out with the backlog.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about losing any sworn positions either. I mean, this would be like we keep the sworn positions we have. We need our sworn positions
right now.
So anyway, I would urge us to really look at some possibilities there rather than just kicking the can down the road and hoping that we're going to get another class and we should be doing that anyway because our people are dying out there. I mean, not literally, thank God, but they're having a really hard time, with the amount of overtime we're putting on them. So anything I think we can do to not pull them out of the field and put them into, I just think we should look at it. That's all.
So I think maybe we should add that to our little task list, is having the department, because I didn't see it in the task list this time, is having the department explore possibilities, obviously talking to UFLAC, and discussing ways to supplement. We're not taking away any sworn positions, but just supplementing what we have now. That's going to be a lot cheaper than going through the hiring of sworn, is supplementing our Fire Prevention Bureau with key civilians.
Yeah, I mean, arguably we could gain sworn positions out of it if we're saving some money in certain places. Then you can add some sworn positions in other places. So, I don't want us to like have a knee jerk of like, nope, we can't look at it, and so we're going to look everywhere else, and that's going to be a last resort. That's all.
Just kind of following up on just one element of what I was asking that got lost when we were talking just now. Are there like pools of individuals that are out there in the civilian world that could backfill some of these, tasks? I don't know the answer. It's just an inquiry of mine.
As a temporary employee?
Yeah, I mean, are there people out there that are in the world out there somewhere that have the skills to do some of the things that we're talking about to backfill some of these jobs? Or how does the county do it? I mean, I'm just not familiar.
I mean, the county has a hybrid of sworn and civilian.
Okay.
Glendale recently civilianized their entire Fire Prevention Bureau. They're a lot smaller. Chief and I, we've had this discussion. We feel a sworn model is a model that works for us, and possibly certain positions being a hybrid model. If in fact we did move towards civilianization, specifically of our CUPA, I would not want to lose those inspectors. I would want to reallocate them to other areas where we're in desperate need to do the work.
I think that's consistent with what everybody here has been saying. We don't want to lose any sworn positions. We're just trying to figure out how to get through the backlog.
Sir.
Right?
Yeah, we just need qualified bodies there.
Yeah.
Yes. Completely agree with what Commissioner Fazio is saying there. It's about faster augmentation of what we've got, not losing people that we have.
Understood.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah, he's on the next one too, right?
Yeah.
5C?
Oh yeah, but we have public comment. So public comment is from Mr. Frank Lima of UFLAC. Yeah.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners. My name is Frank Lima, President of United Firefighters of Los Angeles City. Feels like deja vu as we are here once again to discuss the work of the Fire Prevention Bureau. To be clear, this is a good discussion, it's a good thing, and this discussion's happening because the department wasn't managed correctly, period. We need to keep the spotlight on the critical work of the LAFD inspectors at the Fire Prevention Bureau. Far too long, the Fire Prevention Bureau was neglected, and our inspectors were very much unappreciated by the fire department, especially management. As I've said many times before, UFLAC has discussed our staffing crisis for several years now. The staffing crisis, which has included a net loss of nearly 500 firefighters, paramedics, and inspectors over the past 5 years, has impacted every single aspect of our department, including the Fire Prevention Bureau. In regards to, I know we have a lot of topics on the agenda. I'm going to speak on several items, but in regards to converting to civilians, I just want to be clear that the fire marshal has already moved forward with that unilaterally, and UFLAC has an unfair labor practice that is filed, and we're moving through that process right now. We do support the fire chief and the fire marshal saying that we shall have a sworn model as well. And bringing up Glendale and things to muddy the waters, yeah, Glendale went to that system, and Glendale got ambulance operators in exchange for not losing their 4-member engine companies. So, talk about our staffing crisis, not to say UFLAC told you so, but rather to make sure that we never find ourselves in this position again in the LAFD. And also, before we move to, if I heard Commissioner Fazio right, if he went in this direction, would only be to catch up and then short temporary time. Thanks.
Thank you. 5C is report by the department relative to the Fire Prevention Bureau plan update.
It's just a procedural question. Do we need to receive and file 5B yet, or should we take them all together? Okay. Okay. All right. Move to receive and file item 5B.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now it's 5C. Thanks.
Thank you. John Vidovich, Fire Marshal. In regards to the FPB action plan, this is our second quarterly report in regards to the assessment that I and my staff did when we took over within the Fire Prevention Bureau, truly to identify certain tasks and a roadmap that we wanted to accomplish within the first year. There's certain items that you'll be able to see that are 100% complete, and other items that are still work in progress. But for the most part, we are moving in the right direction. You'll see some of the items in regards to technology. We continue to struggle with our technology, but we do have a plan that we're moving forward in regards to replacing a system to make us more efficient. Are there any specific questions on the action items?
What do you see in there, Chief, that pops out? I see some things that are 70%, 50%. Are you seeing some movement in, in certain areas that would be good for us to be aware of?
Yeah, I think the for the FPB implementing our strategic plan, which assists us in aligning with the fire chief's strategic plan, it puts us in alignment to ensure that we're meeting the goals of the chief and the mayor's office. Looking at risk-based inspection criteria, specifically as we look at our brush inspections, that's a model where we have 130,000 plus inspections, and
what's the number?
Over 130,000, 132,000 plus inspections in the brush area. But looking at data, historically in the last 10 years, approximately 10% of those properties are always in some type of violation. So we're trying to leverage that data knowledge for our future inspections to prioritize as our high-risk inspections, knowing that now some people come in and out of the system, but roughly 10% of the customers we're always citing. So we're looking at how we can prioritize those as our initial inspection.
Is there a trend happening there that you're seeing?
Yeah, I think one of the trends we're seeing this year is properties that in the past that we haven't cited, we're citing, but there's certain residents that know May 1st they're receiving their notice from the fire department and they're well on their way to clearance. So there's people who are on autopilot because we've been so efficient doing this model that they're clearing their brush. I think the other component that we're seeing in the Fire Prevention Bureau is in regards to the supervisor accountability. It's really just to manage ensuring that our inspections and our inspectors are doing the work in a process that we're paying a little bit closer attention through data and the fire stat process. I think that really has helped us to give our supervisors some guidance.
Chief, I have a question about that, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So we have 4 bureaus now, we have 1 fire marshal. So how is it that you then liaise with the bureau deputy chiefs insofar as are they now aware of through fire stat or however it is that we're operating, like what are the areas within each of the bureaus to have them sort of at least be highlighted? I mean, how's that working?
Yeah, that's still work in progress. We actually had a meeting this morning with the 4 bureau commanders to discuss specifically fire prevention data. But as we bring forward a reorganization plan, the chief has asked that we align our model to the 4 bureau model, and we will have a liaison, an officer with each of the 4 bureaus. So in the event that there's any fire prevention issue, rather than having to dig down to the individual inspector,
Right.
You have a point of contact who will then flush out the response to the respective bureau commander.
I would think if I were a bureau commander, I'd want to know if there's like a high priority in my bureau that, inspection bureau wants to make sure we get to, but maybe is, not gotten to yet, that I'd play a role in that, I would think. I mean,
Yeah, that
am I annoying all the bureau commanders at this point? That's at least my mind.
Yeah, they're keenly aware of their responsibility in the area of fire prevention as well.
Okay.
And really the last item, or at least I'd speak to, is in regards to us evaluating the creation of a special events unit. In essence, we already have that. We have our public assemblies unit that, and you heard the accolades of
Chief Greenup.
the Chief Greenup. He doesn't work directly for me, but also the Fire Prevention Bureau had a significant footprint in regards to ensuring the venues and the planning were set up. We are the front line on those events. So creating a special event unit for that one point of contact for all major events will make it more efficient for the public. And right now you could set up an event through public assemblage, through schools, through different areas, and at times it takes away from our focus of conducting an inspection. So focusing a special events unit for consistency and then liaisoning with EOPS for the event action plans is important.
So you're recommending in Prevention Bureau that you have, another BC that just deals with special events? Is that what you're kind of proposing here?
Well, we already do. We have a BC in the public safety section. It's just a realignment of some of those functions. But that's correct.
And how many of those events take place in an annual time frame? Because, we don't really know.
Well, there's several hundred of all different capacities, but we've identified the top 30 events that are repeats: the Grammys, the USC football games, the Academy Awards, where normally the footprint's the same, our hiring plethora is the same, but the people change, so we go through the exercise. But we wanted that consistency so we could, for budgetary reasons, know what our normal deployment is from the Fire Prevention Bureau, so we can have the appropriate overtime account, because most of those events are done on an overtime basis.
So that's something you and the chief are realigning position within the bureau to deal with that?
We're still in discussion.
Okay.
On how we'd like to do this. I think part and parcel of ensuring that we enhance our service delivery for these events, not diminish them.
So you have the continuity of someone that understands how to deal with that on an annual basis, is what you're saying, instead of a different person and a different model.
Yeah, right now, I mean, two of my most senior captains in the Fire Prevention Bureau work in public assemblies, Captain Ayala, Captain Scott Miller. So we've had discussions on how this would look in theory. But, you know, there's going to be some meet and confer items in regards to overtime hiring that we're going to have to sit down with ERO and UFLAC before we can actually implement a special events unit.
Thanks.
Just a couple questions here on the action plan. On the established performance management and right-size inspection districts, to me, those are really important if we're going to bring any kind of predictability to our ability to complete Operation Catch-Up in the if we're going to establish any kind of a time frame there for that and really understand when and how it's going to do it, what our goals are, those two things seem really important to me. What do you think is the time frame for really hammering that out?
And specifically to the right size of inspection districts?
Both the performance management and the right size inspection districts.
Well, I think the performance management, the chief requested that all bureaus, including fire prevention, have specific performance metrics that we report on. There's so much data available from fire prevention in regards to what we truly want to measure, but obviously the number of inspections complete is important. We're in regards to our notice writing and the violations corrected, we feel that's a direct nexus to public safety. So the metrics there are ongoing in regards to establishing certain 4 to 5 specific measurements for the fire stat process. And in regards to when will it be done, I think it's really fluid. There may be a quarter that we want to highlight, and we can actually talk about brush. Brush, it peaks in the second and third quarter, so I think we really want to look how we do during those 2 quarters in brush, as an example, versus selecting another one of our responsibilities, high-rise buildings that are respected or requested to be inspected annually. And then on the right size of inspection districts, that's really the work in progress as well. We currently have models where we have specific units doing the work. We're evaluating what we're calling a one inspector, one building model and aligning to our fire station districts so we can put an inspector in a central location to minimize his or her travel time in regards to their decentralized start time rather than having to report to headquarters. They start from a remote fire station and they're closer to where their work is. But right setting those inspection districts, we've evaluated that, but we can't move in that direction until we have the technology in place to do so.
So I just want to make sure I'm being clear. I guess I'm sort of looking for something in between here, but I want to be able, I want the public to know that we are, as a goal, setting that we're going to complete X inspections, per quarter, and how do we do against the goal? And that might be an inspections done per quarter. It might be about a square foot inspected per quarter, because I know that sometimes the number of inspections doesn't always fit neatly in the box. If you have an inspector doing a high rise, then it's really about square feet inspected, perhaps. But and this sort of bleeds into the next item. But can we take these together? Can we consider the report, the backlog inspection report as well as part of this? I would just can I make a request that we just talk about both?
So 5F, 6, 5F, right?
5C and 5F together here.
Yeah.
Is that okay? All right, and then we can hear public comment on both. So if we're looking at the quarterly, the backlog, first I want to say I appreciate the data, and I know you guys are working hard to look at it, but I guess it's really hard to know what it means, because I don't have a sense of what we were supposed to do or what we said we were going to do. And so, it could be that we were ahead and that our goal was to complete, fewer inspections than what's on here, and we did better, in which case maybe that's great. Or it could be that the goal was more and we completed fewer, in which case then let's analyze what the problem was there. Do we need more resources? What do we need to do? Right. But I think until we really establish that our quarterly goal was X, we completed Y, the differential was Z, and we had, this is what our backlog was last month, this is what it was this month. It's very hard to kind of analyze if we're making progress here other than what you tell us, and that's not it's not a trust thing, it's just a verify thing, and I think the public deserves to know what our goals are here and how we're managing to them. So I'm not sure where that fits in your action plan, but I would just to submit that that's really important.
I think our goal is always to complete 100% of our inspections. The reality is that we don't have the required staffing to hit that mark right now.
Oh, sure. I know. So that's not what I'm. But it's hard for us to even have that particular conversation that you want to have right now of what the realities are, because I don't even know. I can't look at this and say, we did every inspection that we were planning to do, or we didn't do the inspections we're planning to do. So, but if we are able to look at that, then we can say, oh, Chief, what's going on? And you can say, well, we've got staffing issues. Our folks are working really hard. They're doing double overtime, and they're actually exceeding the number of inspections per member, but we can't do it because we're still short 5 people. And then we as a commission can say, all right, well, what are we going to do about that problem? But right now, it's I don't know where to focus the energy other than on you, which I feel bad for you, because then it's just like, hey, Chief,
right.
do better. And then you're saying, well, it's this or that, but I don't.
Yeah.
If I could add some comments on there, Commissioner. I worked with Chief Vidovich and his staff on this report. I saw the initial draft, and we made some revisions, and we heard you loud and clear. And I think moving forward, what I'd like to do is propose that we give you a draft version. This is going to be a quarterly report. Correct. So we could add a column what the goal is to clarify that. This is a work in progress. I'm confident that by working together, we can get you a template that you'll be happy with, and we'll answer all the concerns that you have as well as the public. That's great. And look, I don't want this to come across as I'm saying like people aren't working hard enough. I know that everybody's working real hard on this, and again, as this commission has said before, and I'll say it again, we appreciate the focus you're putting on this, or I'll speak for myself. I appreciate the focus you're putting on this, and I know you guys are working hard. I think we're just looking for, or I'm just looking for a little bit more precision here about what we're trying to do, so that we can really just better kind of have a sense of what are we trying to do and how are we doing against what we're trying to do, and if we can't do it, then how do we work together, everybody in this room, to try to get to where we want to get to. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, thanks.
And I think what you're saying also is just to be data driven. So I think that's the key metric, so that we understand, like, if we're right staffed or not right staffed, or all that stuff.
Chief, I remember reading somewhere, and right now there's so much stuff on my desk I forgot where it was. But there was something about the schools, churches, and institutions that jumped out at me. What's going on in that unit? Are they keeping up?
That's page 3 of
Thank you.
The backlog report under the public safety section.
Thank you.
Sure. In regards to the schools and churches with the significant backlog there, there's a couple challenges that we've had there. We've initiated data cleanup throughout the Fire Prevention Bureau, where we recognized there were some inspection dates missing. This unit has really not done that data cleanup to our satisfaction, and we're addressing that. The other part of that is last year they had 4 people off ID at the same time, which really elevated the backlog. But our focus approach with Operation Catch Up is to laser in on all the schools and churches that were in excess of 3 years past due, and we've started that catch-up process. But we do have some challenges there. We're talking to the supervisor. Chief Cooper is the lead on that, working with the BC and the captain to ensure that they get on board with where we're trying to go here.
Okay. Not okay, but okay. I understood what you said.
Sir.
Chief Vidovich, you want to expand upon the Operation Catch Up a little bit, the time frame and the innovative things you're doing to address that?
Yes, sir. Again, we promoted 8 inspectors last week. Operation Catch Up is a focus of these 8 inspectors targeting all inspections that are now 3 years past due. That number has been reduced now to around 5,400 inspections. So we're going into each unit and in essence surgically removing those inspections, conducting the inspection, and moving unit by unit to get caught up. The component of leveraging our new inspectors, they're coming in with a lot of energy and are excited to do this. Looking at specifically at risk-based inspections again, I think that's one thing that we've partnered now with the mayor's office and working with how they did it in New York, bringing in data sets from other departments to prioritize these inspections based on risk. So right now, this is our first week in Operation Catch Up. We started in our central industrial unit, and then we moved to schools and churches and so forth.
Is there any kind of, a lot of churches and schools have sort of a safety officer of sorts within them, not in any way to replace what we do, but is there a checklist that we could provide them, like a self-assessment pending our, arrival, to help make sure that that was, accurate and that everything's safe, but something we can at least kind of be even telephonically just saying, hey, we sent this out, how are you doing with that?
We've actually began that with the LAUSD schools because those are the high propensity schools that have not been inspected on the annual basis, and we sent them a checkoff sheet on the most common hazards within a school. Okay. So the goal is for them to have those corrected prior to our arrival.
Do we have like the name of who it is that would be like their person in these places that would be responsible for that, where we could kind of like communicate with them and say, hey, you got that? Are you using it?
Yeah, it's my understanding that our best point of contact to get this information is we have to go through the principal because
they're in charge.
They've had reduction in their plant supervisors and so forth. So the principal is the boss and gets it to the appropriate person.
Is that the police that are involved with that? The LA Unified School, police component? Are they the ones that do that work, or is it someone at the administrative office?
I don't think it's the school police.
It would be OEHS probably, Office of Environmental Health and Safety.
Do they have like a person at each school, or do they have like a regional person? Or
they have regional people.
So one person would be responsible for 30 schools or something.
I mean, that's how it was when I was there.
No,
yeah, I mean that was a long time ago, but. Yeah. I think that's the division that would be in charge of this sort of stuff.
Okay. Maybe we could liaise with that person then. Thanks. Sorry to...
It's all right.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have 2 public comments before we can take up 2 action items. So both from Frank Lima from UFLAC on 5C and 5F.
Good morning, Madam President, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Just to be clear, this is 5 C and F.
Yeah.
Combined.
It's in each.
Okay. Frank Lima, President, United Firefighters of Los Angeles City. Also the Vice President of California Professional Firefighters, and working with Chief Terrazas on some legislation change for the better. We're getting that ball rolling with our political influence in Sacramento. And if I talked about the staffing crisis earlier, but if UFLAC doesn't keep the pressure on LAFD management and the personnel to keep hiring firefighters, then it simply won't happen. The urgency will not be there. That's why every chance UFLAC gets, we talk with this commission, we talk with our city council members, their chief of staffs, and the mayor, and we're not going to let up. Thankfully, the department, finally working with UFLAC, for many years, the department, it's nice to sit in the back and finally hear the chief say, we don't have enough staffing. When for many years, many of them that sat here actually got up and advocated to cut the fire department. We could cut all these companies. We could cut 300 firefighters and response times won't change. Inspections won't change.
Captain Lima, I just want to keep you focused on the two topics. So.
I'm on it. So I want to bring up a couple of things that I hear spoken earlier here. And, you know, like the overtime for the inspectors, that's not part of the city budget. That's all private money coming in. And a couple numbers using department numbers in regards to backlog. Let's just review 2005, 2006, comparing that to 2011 fiscal year. Both fiscal years had 133 inspectors for the Fire Prevention Bureau. In 05-06, our inspectors, our 133 inspectors, did 22,400 inspections. In fiscal year 11-12, our 133 inspectors did 52,500 inspections, an increase of 225%. While the inspections went up, our staffing didn't even maintain, it went down. So, you know, talking about that stuff, this was the first year we didn't have the brush task force. I really like what the fire marshal said, is that, yeah, we have a goal to inspect everything, but the reality is we don't have the staffing. There's been many successes here in regards to the additional inspectors recently, our mid fiscal year budget requests. And here to tell Chief Taraz that we need to keep working together and demand that the resources, you know, we need to be successful. And that's going together with budget chairman, budget committee, and doing what we do. Our firefighters, LAFD firefighters, know how to do more with less, unfortunately. But our men and women are stretched too thin in the field. They're overworked, and in the Bureau. So we don't want to do this any longer. We want to do more with more and work in a properly staffed department that's able to give the people of Los Angeles the service they need and the safety they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. So we can take them up together.
Great. Move to adopt the recommendations for item 5C and F.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now moving on to 5D, which is report by the department on the EPCR software upgrade and revenue update.
Good morning, Commissioners, Chief, Council, Ms. Gonzalez. In brief, as you know, approximately 5 years ago, we implemented an entirely electronic patient care reporting base, and that gave us really two main overall goals. One is the HIPAA compliance with new HIPAA law, and secondly, streamlining of the reporting process for patient care records. We are currently in the 4th version of EPCR software, and we're currently moving towards now version number 6 of EPCR software. There are going to be two main benefits of moving to version 6. The behind-the-scenes benefit is going to be increased data collection. There are about 170 additional data fields, primarily as requested by Department of Health Services, that we can use to provide them better records. And then secondly, the upfront, the user benefits will be a more user-friendly platform. So instead of having to run through maybe every page of an EPCR, as soon as the specific incident type is inputted, only the pages that would be pertinent to that incident type would come up. So that should greatly streamline the user's application. Our timeline is still directly on schedule. We're looking at testing the product in October, and we're looking for a go-live date of December. Then the secondary request, which is also noted in the report, was just the fiscal piece. Normally, Mr. Martinez would have reported the fiscal piece. As you can see, our 14-15 recovery was $72 million, and we currently have a year-to-date recovery of $4.6 million. That concludes my report. Do you have any questions for me?
Just a couple questions. So we adopted, there was supposed to be an upgrade last year, and we had Sancio up there and throwing tablets on the ground to demonstrate how tough they were. But it didn't go very well, from what I understood. It had to be rolled back to a previous software date, and I never really understood, or I just never got the update on. Did we scratch that? Was that update 5 and got scratched, and we're skipping up to 6, or does this ringing a bell?
No, unfortunately,
Okay.
I'm not familiar with
Okay.
that hardware change or software change, 5 to 6. I just know that currently we're going 4 to 6.
Okay. Well, from what I recall, is we had a major upgrade happening about a year ago, maybe a little longer. It did not go well, and it ended up they had to actually pull that upgrade back. So I think my question, really the reason why I was interested in this is, where are we with that? It sounds like we're ready to move to a new software version. And I just want to make sure it works, and that we have some comfort in that it does work.
And I would think we're equally eager to see those same things, and that's why we'll be aggressively testing it beginning in October. And
Okay.
maybe we can come back and report to you thereafter and let you know how that progression is moving before we actually go live.
Yeah, if you could just give us maybe a verbal next time of, yep, we tested it, it's going well, rollout's going to happen, or maybe just a written, like, here's the schedule, because last time it was like I understand it's got to be phased over time for the training and all that stuff. So just kind of getting a sense of how that's going to go over the, once we do vet the software, make sure it works, and then it goes out. I understood that the Toughbook tablets were actually handed out a year ago, but they still had the old software on them because the new software didn't work right.
Right.
Okay. So keep us posted then as far as the new software and whether it works. And if we're able, and the next, let's say, is December the right time for you to give us a quick update on that?
December is when we go live. We begin our testing, our field testing, in October. So maybe it would be practical if we went someplace in between there, maybe about
prior to the
November.
go live.
We already have a month of practice time on it.
That would be great. Okay. Thanks so much.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
No public comment. Motion to receive and file.
Second.
15078.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So then, 5E's report by the department on the tiered dispatch system sustainability plan.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chief Terrazas, City Attorney, Trevor Richmond, Assistant Bureau Commander, Operations Valley Bureau. Slightly over 2 months ago, the department reported on the performance of TDS. And what we learned from that report was that nearly 18 seconds were saved in our call processing times. Subsequent to that report was a directive we received from the Commission to begin to look at sustainability for TDS. And that's what we're back here to report on today. I think it would be helpful, before I start to summarize this report, to kind of set a context for this report. The context for this report is really conceptual at this point, and really should serve as a point of departure on a conversation on what it's going to take to support TDS. We're learning new things every day with TDS, and I think this report needs to reflect that scalability and flexibility that at some point in the future, if we determine that there are other needs, we'll be able to come back to this board and request those. So with that, we're certain about 3 things with TDS at this point. Number 1 is we're saving call processing times. That's evident. Number 2 is that TDS is going to require ongoing support and development in perpetuity. And the last thing that we're certain of is that our current staffing model is not sufficient. So with that, we're looking at a 4-year plan. And year 1 would have started the day we implemented TDS. That would be December 1st of 2014. For the first 2 years of TDS, we're looking at maintaining our current model with our software developer, Mr. Baker, and continue to develop the software, continue to improve the dispatch algorithms. And parallel to that, it would be training the ITA staff on how to take that piece, that responsibility, once Mr. Baker moves on to other things. In year 3, we're looking at actually recommending staff. And we really look at breaking the staff down into 3 main components. So quality improvement, which we currently have right now over at MFC, dispatch development, and then dispatch training. So each one of those units would be staffed with a Captain 1. Dispatch training would be specifically staffed with a Captain 1 paramedic. One of the other things that we're looking at is putting a Captain 2 paramedic in that position to oversee those 3 units. One of the other things that was a recommendation from the dispatchers is that we should consider adding a dispatcher on an administrative duty. And I can't say I agree with that more. One of the common themes in large technology project failures is failure at the end user analysis. So with that dispatcher on that team, we'll have that end user analysis built in to this framework. The last year of the sustainability plan would include the addition of a battalion chief. This battalion chief would oversee not just TDS, but also all the ancillary technologies that integrate with TDS. And that's basically my report. Are there any questions?
Yeah. Is there, I know we're getting started on the budget process for the next fiscal year. Is there any part of this that you can begin to integrate into the budget process so that you can begin to tell the policymakers in City Hall what at least somewhat of what we're going to need?
So for the next 2 years, well, actually a year and a half from this point, we recommend extending Mr. Baker's contract with the use of Kaiser funds. But you're correct.
Can you explain, you referenced Kaiser funds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we've been briefed on that before, so if you can explain that.
I'll give you my understanding of Kaiser funds. I'm sure someone else could give you a more detailed analysis or understanding of it. My understanding of Kaiser funds is that they are funds that are set aside by the department based on an agreement we have with Kaiser Hospital in transporting patients to their facilities. These funds are earmarked for EMS projects only, which TDS is entirely an EMS project. And we've used them in the past to support TDS.
Okay.
And yes, you're right, Commissioner. I think, looking forward from this date, we need to sit down and really look at what types of positions we're going to anticipate needing first. When you look at the 2 additional captains that we're asking for, we could start making and drafting that staff report now in anticipation of year 3, which would be 2 years from now.
Yeah, thank you for all the work on this, and I just want to support what President Ibarra was saying. I really do think that we want to, start integrating into the budget process, and this represents a great opportunity for us to take some real hard data to City Council and the Mayor and say, this is the return on the investment, which is at least 18 seconds of call processing time that we're saving, and potentially more as we continue to get better at this. So I would just want to encourage us to make sure we are bringing that package of data when we go there, because we have a lot of data associated with this. If next time around, it would be great if we could actually see an org chart that shows what the ideal would look like. Or did I jump the gun on?
He has it. I will take responsibility for this. This was included as an attachment to the board report, but it did not make it in to the file. So if it's possible, I'd recommend handing that out.
Fantastic. You read my mind. The only thing else I'd say is let's just make sure that as we build out our CIO capacity here, let's just make sure that any of our technical folks are in that org line to our eventual Chief Information Officer, so that we're really taking advantage of having that person there and having them supervise our technology work to support the work we're doing. And other than that, I think it's, I appreciate the thoughtfulness that goes into this and the planning work on this.
Thank you, Commissioner.
A couple things, Chief. Were you about to say something? Sorry. First of all, I know that you've moved from MFC, and I want to thank you for your leadership inside of that unit because it was really helped step it up in there with a lot of confusion when you walked into the role. So
thank you.
Which isn't meant to disparage your predecessor as much as to highlight your leadership.
Thank you.
I'm personally a little bit sort of confused, and maybe you can just help me for a second. So there's like a city chief technology officer, and then we have somebody that's sort of looking at the technology and assessing it inside of MFC, and then we have this tiered dispatch system. Can you just in a nutshell tell me, is there alignment? I mean, is there a fear of misalignment? Are they completely different worlds?
So I think the CIO, and I haven't had the chance to discuss this with the fire chief, so this is my opinion, is strategic, right?
Okay.
So they're looking at the strategic implementation, not just of MFC technologies, but of all fire department technologies.
Okay.
Their involvement in TDS, I imagine, is oversight and making sure that it's strategically aligned with what we want to do in the department. But the real day-to-day groundwork is going to be done by this organizational framework, and I can't thank Captain Tim Werfel enough. I mean, I call him my airplane mechanic, but the problem is he's operating and working on the engine as the airplane is flying. And so I have one person doing everything that I've put out here today, and it's non-sustainable.
So the TDS, though, is really sort of the protocols that a dispatcher is involved with dealing with as an incident's taking place. And the CAD, I mean, I'm trying to figure out what that nexus is. I mean, I want to make sure that we don't lose any beats with regard to what looks like it's working well with the tiered dispatch system as we're then sort of overlaying the possibility of a new system at some point. Are they in jeopardy, or are they at odds, or are they all...
No, the initial talks, I think you might be referring to CAD,
right?
And looking at replacing our CAD system eventually. The initial talks with myself and Maggie Goodrich were that we would pursue a CAD technology that would allow what they refer to in the tech industry plug and play.
Okay.
So really, the TDF software is a separate piece from CAD. Okay, even though they're integrated with a new system, we can integrate TDS with our current CAD, which and conceivably integrate with any other CAD we decide to go with.
Okay, so they're going to be complementary systems.
They're complementary systems.
Lose any beats if we change the CAD. Thank you.
In the report, you're talking about how you're still using cards.
We are. The goal still is to implement the software by September 1st. Because of the holidays, there may be a few days we may not hit that directly, but that is still the goal. Mike Baker was out here last week. He comes once more at the end of August. We're hopeful by that August visit, we will have a prototype in the test bed ready to be put into production CAD.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten an update on the CAD in a while, huh? So maybe we should get one of those.
We can ask Maggie to return.
Okay.
I have a few comments on this. Excellent report. TDS is, without a doubt, a success, and we need to continue to support it. And Captain Werfel's been great. I want to clarify the CIO piece. Maggie Goodrich is a public safety CIO, and until we can hire ours, she's acting as ours as well. We do have a finalist that we'll be offering a position to be the fire CIO. And there is an LAPD CIO. So the overall model would be a fire and LAPD CIO reporting to Maggie as well as to myself. TDS, like Chief Retchman described, would be a plug and play, and it would be it's separate from the CAD. It's a standalone. We can develop it, and we'll move forward with that. The CIO's role would be to focus on the technology piece in terms of, is the contract appropriate? Do we have the right people doing it? Is it timelines? All those things. I'll also add that I've had some discussions with Maggie in the past few weeks over the CIO and other things, but we're hiring Gartner August 19th to be a project manager over all of the elements that Maggie's overseeing right now, the CAD, the fire station alerting system, the RNC, and so forth. So actually there's a meeting, I believe, later this week with Gartner. I'll be attending with the commissioner tomorrow, and we'll get an update. So I think we'll see some accelerated pace now that we have a project manager dedicated to those projects.
Great. Thanks for the clarification, Chief. I just know in life sometimes when you tweak one little piece of a system that's part of a bigger system, the whole system is,
Well, your analysis is spot on, and I'll give you an example. Every time we change something in a hard card set,
Right.
that has to be changed in the software.
Right.
So you're exactly right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, move to receive and file item 5E.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So now we just have one last public comment from Captain Frank Lima of UFLAC.
Madam President, Commissioners, Frank Lima, UFLAC. Couple things that I'm going to speak on and what's in jurisdiction of this board. And one I heard was call processing times, real easy. You return 7 more trucks back to the field and 10 more engines, and we'll get there, but we've got to keep push. In regards to the Special Olympics that was mentioned, we did have good partnership. UFLAC sponsored a female athlete from India. All the Olympians in the United States were covered, so we went with her and did a lot of good partnership with the department. And last thing I didn't get a chance to comment on was item 5A. There was, in fact, an action last week, and UFLAC was present with the fire chief in regards to a Krikorian motion that basically sardine canned our already approved classes and filled them up even more, like maximum capacity, push some more in there. So we UFLAC lobby, we got a unanimous vote of 15 council members. Thank you.
Thank you. We can adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye.
Do we need a second on that?